Many thanks for watching. This film is going to be balancing a Fomapan 200 black and white film against the Adox HR50 black and white film. Two great films, and I'm going to go through the pitfalls of them, the benefits, the pluses and all that type of stuff. So hopefully you don't have to fork out a load of money before buying it maybe. So there we go. Check out the 35mm playlist. That's got all these types of films in if you're really interested to just analogue, or have a look at my other stuff if you want to support the channel. That's a bit more silly stuff, but there we go. So let's just get straight into it and let's talk about the Fomapan first. I love to start off with just a little bit of history, just to try and give you a bit of context to these films, because, you know, I'm a bit of a geek and I like that type of stuff as well. Now, it was quite difficult for me to find a bit of research about the specifics of the Fomapan 200 creative. So the company that make it are called the Forma Films. They've been around since 1921, when there was more of a public sort of government-y style company, and they're still around now, which is quite frankly amazing. But basically they started out like a lot of old sort of photography companies in that sort of chemical industry, massively focused in the 20s and 30s on really medical processing, x-rays, things like that, in that sort of medical profession. But as we got into the 30s, you start to see some film rolls coming out, and then predominantly the 50s. 50s were the big push, if you like, for black and white photography, and it's when there was a big market for it. So not surprisingly, they came out at that time with the Fomapan 200 Creative and other films as well. What I can't really find, and I'm not 100% sure, but if anyone watches this and they find something I can, then let me know, because it'd be super interesting, is the specifics of the Fomapan 200, because at the moment it looks like it was around from around the 50s like anything, and it's relatively untouched with small tweaks to the technologies as the years have gone on, but ultimately it has been around, you know, for nearly sort of 60-70 years, which is excellent. And because of that, you do get, I think, quite a unique black and white film compared to a lot of others. Contrast that to the Adox HR50, announced in October 2018. Complete and opposite here, but it's really interesting because you've got a company that's super old. So Adox in general is one of, I think it's either the one or one of the oldest photography brands in the world. It was like established in 1860 by a guy called Dr. Karl Schlongner. I'm not German, I can't pronounce that, but there you go. So there you go, a little bit of history. I thought it'd be quite nice to start off. Now let's get into the sections. So I'll break this down into colour and contrast, grain and versatility, and general sort of handling and feel. So let's crack on. Right, starting off with the Fomapan 200, and a bit of a disclaimer here. I do love this film. Now, and the reason for it, it could be that it just meshes with my sort of style and how I like to, if you like, sort of portray images, but it's got a really sort of low contrast to it, which I find really nice. I.e. the whites are brought out in the shadows, which I find fantastic, and it gives you a lovely sort of, I don't know, sort of balanced sort of white tone across the entire image, and for that I think it's really cool. Now, instantly to me, if you look at these photos, for me it does scream of 50s, 60s black and white photography, you know, in that sort of like hippie era that you've seen in the past, and that's probably because that was most likely the style at the time, maybe, I don't know, but either way that's the film, and that I love that. Now for me, what really impresses me with the contrast and the sort of colour to it is the tones. So for example, if you're on like a really bright summer day, the tones and the details that you get out of those highlights and those whites are just amazing, like you can see here, in my opinion. But at the same time, it does hold its own with the darks as well, and I think it just it gives it a really like nice summer feel to it. And for me, if you're up for that happy sort of, yeah, bright feel to it, this film is all for you really, which is excellent. Now, compare it to the Adox HR50, well, we're probably talking polar opposites here. So this is, I thought, was quite heavy contrast. So you can see the pictures here, it's very darky, sort of moody. Now, what I think's actually happened is, and I'll come to it maybe in just a second, is you can push and pull the film obviously like you can with anything. Now I did slightly tweak the ISO, so it's ISO 50, and you can see that with this standard image here, which I think is still quite contrasty. So you really get the blacks, for example. There's not an awful lot of details in those shadows, really. It doesn't hold the highlights as well. It just gets you a nice sort of contrasty sort of image. Now, If you push it to 200, for me, the contrast just get even more pronounced, and which is really cool. And I'm going to show you this one image that I might repeat back on in a second, but this is something that I'd read about the film anyway, and I'd had in mind when I'm shooting. So I wanted to get this type of image when I saw my little girl Clemmy playing with my lights, or my photography light that you get, LED lights. I thought it was an opportunity here for this film, because I knew it would, if I expose for the highlights, then basically what will happen is the darks and the shadows will just be pitch black. So that's the type of shot that I would use this for. I think it's fantastic. It's that perfect crisp. Shadows are gone, just really burnt the shadows, and you're just getting those tones of whatever the light is that you've exposed for, which I think is a really cool shot. However, which I wouldn't have tried with the Fomapan, because I knew that wouldn't have happened. You wouldn't have gotten that with the whites that get into the blacks and the darks with the Fomapan. It would have been a completely different image. You'd have seen different bits of shadows, and it wouldn't have worked. But so that's the type of thing that you're going to get from the Adox, which is really cool and different. Starting off with the Fomapan, well, for me, really versatile. You can use indoor, outdoor, and the grain holds really well. I think its biggest asset for me is those whites and holding those highlights and the details within the highlights. I think that's a big plus for me. I think it really shines through in the images, particularly when you're outside on a sunny day and you're taking a photo. The way that this film comes across is, I don't know, you get some of those details that even I think burn in a digital camera if you sort of expose in this way, which I think is really just massively impressive. Really, I think that's really great. I've said before in the first section why I love this type of film. Even on like a white, bright, cloudy day, it does the same. And then when you stray inside, I feel like it keeps a lot of the detail in the highlights and shadows without a crazy amount of grain. So this is a really good image. I want to show you sort of the differences, and you can sort of see where actually it still holds its own, even though the light is just polar opposites of what we've just talked about, which I just think is really impressive. And it still keeps that profile, that style that it's got, the same whether you're in or out, which is really impressive. Because some films that I've used, you know, you can take a photo in different light conditions, and you could argue that it's a different type of film, really. Whereas this, I don't think you can. I think regardless what lighting conditions you take it, I think it's quite easily spotted as a Fomapan 200. So yeah, that's it. Now moving on to the Adox. So again, I've said it before, really, but it's the same type of thing. There's much more. I would say there's a term, I think, and I don't know if this is just like a trendy term, but if you like to crush your shadows, they tell me. So basically, if you like to shoot where you don't have anything in your shadows, it's very sort of split down the middle, then the Adox HR50 is for you. On a bright sunny day in a city, this would be perfect for me, because I love that type of shot where you might get someone walking in and out of a shadow, but you don't really want any of the detail in the shadow. You want to sort of create that mood. Now, for me, that's it. That's perfect. Now, in terms of the grain, it comes out very quickly in those highlights. So as soon as you shoot outdoors or like this, or you go inside and there's a bit of light and it's a bit of, it's contrasted between the difference, you see, I think, the grain. And an example of this is, if you look at the shot I've exposed here for the highlights, the blacks are really clean, really well exposed, and it's just perfect for that shot. However, if that was a little bit of a light in the corner, you'd start to see that grain really come out, and that's the sort of difference with it. But again, it's all sort of personal preferences, if you like, and that's just something to consider. Starting off with the Fomapan. Well, you're going to have one guess what I'm going to say here, aren't you? But it's great. It feels great. I feel like I could trust it regardless of the more or less lighting conditions. Do you know what? Right, and I'll come to this on the summary in a minute, but I just feel like it's a good mood film. I think that's it for me. Really happy to show off like family moments or really intricate moments, and I'd easily take it on a day that you just wasn't too sure what the conditions are going to be like. For me, if you're taking portraits, the skin tones are really nice and soft, and I believe that is regardless of the light to a degree, and I think that's really interesting about the Fomapan. It just gives that really unique look. The Adox, for me, the handle and feel, I would say it is the opposite of that. I feel like you wanted to portray something moody, something dark, something. I mentioned before around, sometimes when I shoot, if I've got it in my mind, I want to shoot a black and white street sort of scene or or sort of series, and I do like, and if you look at my Instagram you'll find this, with that stuff I do like to completely crush the blacks and have that sort of person emerging from that shadow as if some sort of mystical. Then this is perfect for that. It'll do it really, really well. If you're wanting sort of those softer tones in someone's skin, this isn't going to be the film for you. It doesn't do that. It creates those harsh contrasts, so if you get even the slightest bit of light on someone's face, it's going to bring out that highlight in the grain in the highlight of, say, that part of the face compared to the others. I feel that'd be a bit unpleasant. So for me, that's the type of film that you'd use this for. I think I've built it up quite well, haven't I? You're probably going to guess what I'm going to say here, but let's start with the Adox. Let's mix it up. This is the easiest thing to explain, I think, between these two films. If these films were a mood, the Adox 50 would be just that. It would be moody and a teenager just stropping around wanting to create drama. That is your Adox HR50 in black and white form. If it was a Fomapan was a mood, it would be that chirpy, really fun-loving person you've got who just wants to make the best of everything and get on with it and not apologise and be happy and just make everyone smile. That is the two differences of the films. So depending on your mood, then I would go with one or the other. That is literally as simple as I'm going to make it. The Adox HR50 is going to give it this sort of dramatic feel, as if, I feel like if you're watching a movie, it's going to, something sinister is going to happen any minute. If you take it to the Fomapan, I feel like I'm looking back at a happy-go-lucky summer's time in the 50s with a family, and that is the truth. That might be a crazy ass way of showing you what I think about this film. So there you are, that's my film review today. Bit messy, a bit crazy, but I thought I'll try and give you my best opinion, and I'm going to do some more. So if you like it, please subscribe, let me know that you like it, and I'll keep doing some more, and we'll keep going with this 35mm film stuff. Thank you very much for watching. Please check out my other stuff if you can. It just helps support the channel. I'm a bit mad, but it's good fun to do, so let me know what you think. See you soon. Toodaloo.